Near Cape Breton.
Oh, that's up north.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was from the South Shore.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, he was from the South Shore where the privateers come from. And my mom was from the Annapolis Valley. So in those days, the 1920s, people found it very strange that they ever would have met, being so far away from each.
Of course, that's
Yeah.
a couple of hours.
How did they ever get married? Well, it's a couple of hours now.
Yeah,
but at
sure.
that point, there were no roads through the middle.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to go, you went around the outside, and that was quite windy.
Do you? I have so many questions. We have to. What time are we ending? Tina, did somebody tell me that? 7:15.
No.
7.
You can go ahead at 5 minutes, and then we should open it up.
Okay, 5 minutes. So, your father gives you this model of this scientist, this naturalist, this woodsman. What did your mother give you that shows up in your writing?
Oh, well, maybe you skipped those parts.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
Maybe you skipped those parts. Oh, it's about girls. Let's just skip that. Get to the...
All right, all right. Well answered.
Yeah, well, I used to say I grew up in an all-male household. You know, my dad was a boy, my brother was a boy, and my mother was also a boy, because she was a tomboy. Though she loved to waltz and flirt, but she didn't like housework, hats, gloves, tea parties, any of those kinds of things. I had to learn to knit from one of the neighbors.
Really?
I was the suckiest person in my house, no question. I was the one who did the crocheting. Nobody else was interested remotely in that, especially not my mother. So I refer you to a book called Moral Disorder, in which there's a story called The Art of Cooking and Serving, something in which my mother was really not very interested at all, but I was, because I got hold of this weird book that she had by somebody called Sarah Field Splint, and it was about the art of cooking and serving. And the reason we had it was that it was put out by the Crisco company. And when you're up in the woods, Crisco is a very good thing to have because it never goes off. We didn't think in those times about why it never went off, but it's always just there for you, you know. Crisco, it's there. It's the same this year as it was last year. So there it was, and we had the Crisco.
It's like a barrel of oil, isn't it? You know.
Solid. No, it was very bad for you, I now realize, but we used it quite a bit. And Sarah Field Splint had this vision of gracious living, which was not shared by my mother. But it was quite fascinating to me because I had never seen it in action, so it was a very theoretical kind of thing. Now, it told you how to serve tea in the household without a servant. And then it told
I'd
you
love
about,
to know that.
Yes, well, what you need is the tea trolley. Yes, remember them? The tea wagon.
Yeah.
They wheeled in. And then it told you how to deal with a servant should you possess one, and what sort of outfits she should wear, and how to train a lumpy kind of unpromising person into a genteel. I was really interested in that.
You know, that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm beginning to understand your fiction in a whole new way.
Yes, well, what that story is also about is that I was knitting the layette for this baby that my mother was about to have. She wasn't knitting it. She wasn't remotely interested in knitting the little sockets with the satin ribbon and the bows. I was interested in that, and I did knit it. It came out a bit lumpy and strange, but there it was.
Yeah. I have one. I will ask you one more question, and then we'll open it up. I was reading your book of essays, which is, the name of it has Moving Targets.
Yes.
Which is a great, great, great book of essays, if you haven't read it. They're all great books, but this is a very good book. In this essay, at one point, you
see, I've succeeded in training this person into a genteel and discreet.
Sometimes it works. But in one of the essays, you write about coming to a certain point in completing a novel where you begin to think, well, it may be okay. And it reminded me of something. T.S. Eliot was once interviewed as a young man, and he was asked, you know, he said, poets never really know, even really good poets never know if they haven't wasted their lives pushing words around on a page. And an interviewer reminded him that he had said this when he was older, and he was, you know, the greatest poet of the 20th century kind of thing. And said, do you still believe that? And he said, well, you know, there may be honest poets who don't believe that, but I still believe it. So here you sit today, 40 books minimum, 40 languages, an award for $1 million, you know, yesterday. You know, accolades, right, left, and center. Everybody in the room thrilled to hang on your every word, legitimately so. Do you still have those doubts? Do you still set out and think, well, I should have been a dentist, like my dad said? I mean, do you still have doubts?
He never said that. My dad never said you should have been a dentist. He sometimes said you should have been a botanist.
Oh, a botanist?
Yes, but not a dentist.
I thought it was a dentist for some reason.
No, I put that in a poem. But that was something I made up.
Yeah. But it's still doubts
I use it as a, you know, when I'm talking about writers, I say, of course, what your parents really want you to be is a doctor or a dentist. And there's a real reason why they want you to be a doctor or a dentist. It's because those things have incomes attached to them, and they're worried about your future if you foolishly think that you can just walk into being a writer and make a living. So that's what worries them, plus the fact that you might be a bit weird. But they are genuinely worried, and it is a genuine worry. How do you make a living? That's the worry that they have. So I always said, it's okay, I'll have a second job. And I always did when I needed one. My mother said rather tersely during their tongue-biting period when they were worrying so much but being quite discreet about this idea of mine that I was going to be a writer. She said, well, if you're going to be a writer, maybe you should learn to spell. And I said, others will do that for me, and you know they have.
Well, I'm glad, anyway, that you stuck by your guns, because it's a great pleasure not only to speak to you, but to know that you are in this city, and that you're in this country, and that you are still writing with great vigor. Honestly, I mean that sincerely. Somebody said to me the other day that you were they said how old you were, that you were...
I'm of an age.
You're of an age. And I said, my God, that surprises me. I thought she was at least 10 years younger than that because of the way she writes. But I hope even 10 years...
Do you ever say that in bars?
I might say it to you if I ran into you at a bar. But I hope 10 years from now you are still carrying on that way, because it's a great comfort to have such a great writer in our company. Anyway, thank you very much.
That's very nice. Thank you.
I've now realized what the other Atwood method is, which is make fun of the interviewer.
I don't think I made any more fun of you than you made of me.
I don't know about that.
It's Canadian to make fun of everything. You know that. You sometimes have to explain it to people. We make fun of everything. Don't feel singled out.
Yeah, exactly.